Hello, I'm Dr. David Sanfilippo. Your professor, Dr. Jane Moore, asked if I would come to your class and visit with you and discuss after-death communication in relationship to your thanatology course. Shortly, I'll begin a PowerPoint discussion about after-death communications, and I intend to participate in your discussions on the discussion board and share my perspectives of after-death communication. My study has been in the area of phenomena associated with death and dying, and the experience of near-death experiences where someone has died and spontaneously recovers, and also the aspects of the after-death communications phenomena, and discussing the experiences with different individuals who have experienced after-death communications. I look forward to having an opportunity to share information with you. The after-death communication with you experience is a spontaneous experience that is subjective in nature, and some have called it a spiritual experience. And it is an experience where one senses or becomes aware of a deceased person, most often a friend or loved one. According to researchers, 20 to 40% of the United States population experience some type of after-death communication. After-death communication researchers Bill and Judy Guggenheim have interviewed thousands of individuals who have experienced some type of after-death communication. Bill and Judy have typified the different types of after-death communication experiences they have heard from the experiencers, and have identified 12 types of after-death communications. The first is a sense of presence that the individual expresses, that they feel that the deceased person is with them. The second is hearing a voice, actually hearing the voice of the deceased one. The third is feeling a touch of a loved one or friend who has died. The fourth is smelling a fragrance, perhaps the aftershave, or as a friend of mine once explained to me, that she spontaneously would smell the pipe tobacco of her grandfather. One might have a visual experience in which they see or believe that they see a person in the parking lot or in the store or just outside the corner of their eye. The sixth experience is a vision, that they see a vision, a spontaneous vision, such as a daydream of the individual, but it's so real that it appears to be very significant. The seventh type is a twilight experience. That's when the individual senses the presence of an individual just as they're awakening or going to sleep or coming out of a meditation type of trance. The eighth type of experience is having an after-death communication experience while sleeping. It comes to the experiencer as an extremely vivid dream that is so real that when the experiencer awakes, it's very clear in their mind. The ninth type of after-death communication occurs while the experiencer reports having an out-of-body experience where they are transported to the location of the deceased friend or relative. The 10th type of after-death communication occurs with the telephone, that experiencers report having their telephone ring, and when they pick it up, there is no one on the telephone, but there is a sense of a loved one or friend on the phone. The 11th type of after-death communication is actual physical phenomena, when things appear or disappear that the experiencer knew were located in a specific spot, and they either disappear or they reappear with the sense that the appearance or disappearance of the physical object is associated with the communication from a loved one. The experience also may include lights turning on or off, or radios turning on or off, or alarms turning on or off. I had a friend who reported that after the death of a loved one, that she would often find the lights in her closets coming on or off without any apparent reason. The final type of after-death communication is symbolic in nature. It may come in the shape of a butterfly or some other type of animal or flowers that, when seeing that object, would immediately cause the experiencer to feel a sense of connection to a loved one or friend. In my own personal practice, I had an occasion to be working with an individual who was dying, and in my counseling with this individual, which went over an expanse of a year or more, she was able to introduce me to a business person who ultimately, through the association with this individual, I was able to ultimately buy a home that was a dream house for my family. During the time that the house became available for us to purchase, my friend died. And when we moved into the house and were sitting down for our first dinner in the house, I suddenly saw a tree frog stuck to the window. And at that moment, I knew that it was my friend Carol. Not that the frog was Carol, but that its appearance connected me immediately to the sense of Carol's presence. The most frequent messages that have been reported to researchers are messages such as, "I'm okay," "Don't continue to grieve for me," "Move on with your life," "Forgive me," "Thank you," "Goodbye," and "I love you." Sometimes individuals who have had an after-death communication event have difficulties reconciling the experience. Some suggestions on how they should approach the after-death communication experience is to, number one, allow for the possibility that it was a valid and real experience. Second, examine the experience and see if there's anything additional to learn than just having the experience. Assess the value of the experience. Does it have a change in the individual's life? Does it help the individual to get beyond their grief or to determine something? Fourth, give thanks for the experience. It's a blessed experience. It's an opportunity for individuals to have such an experience. And then to share the experience, but to share it judiciously, because there are a number of doubters out there. So the individual should share initially this experience with people that they feel safe with. As commented earlier, the after-death communication experience is a subjective experience and therefore needs to be looked at for its validity and efficacy based upon various measures. The first measure would be to take into consideration the personal meaning that the individual takes from the experience and how they associate the experience with culture, their age, other experiences that they may have had, and their needs. Another way of looking at and assessing this subjective experience is to keep in consideration of various fears, perceptions, and skepticism that an individual might have as they are evaluating the experience, and how the fear, perceptions, and skepticism might reduce awareness. The third level of how to assess a subjective experience is to assess it from a qualitative standpoint versus a quantitative standpoint. And in doing that, it's important to listen to what the individual is saying about the experience, how they're expressing it, and to develop various meaning units that are assessed from the verbal or written interpretation of their experience. The fourth is to add additional research to the topic of after-death communication. Read what other people are saying, read about other people's experiences, and determine whether the validity of the reported experience from the experiencer matches and or is similar to the experiences of others. And finally, allow for the possibility that the subjective experience of having after-death communications with friends and loved ones is a spiritual experience that is happening outside of the body and is transcendent in nature. Thank you for your time. I hope that this brief outline of the after-death communication experience is helpful to you in your studies, and I look forward to interacting with you on the course discussion board. In my interactions with you there on the discussion boards, I'll share some additional stories that I have experienced personally in my counseling background and in my own personal life. So I look forward to seeing you, and thank you again for the opportunity to share some of my understanding of this very interesting human phenomena of after-death communications.